Ecosystem, its structure and function. An ecosystem can be visualized as a functional unit of the nature where living organisms interact among themselves and also with the surrounding physical environment. And ecosystem vary greatly in size from a small pond to a large forest or a sea. Many ecologists regard the entire biosphere as a global system as a composite of all ecosystem on earth. Since this system is too much big and complex to be studied at one time, it is convenient to divide into two basic categories, namely the terrestrial and aquatic. Forest, grassland and desert are some example of terrestrial ecosystem. Ponds, lake, wetland, river and estuary are some example of aquatic ecosystem. Crop field and an aquarium may also be considered as managed ecosystem. We will first look at the structure of the ecosystem in order to appreciate the input, productivity, transport of energy, food chain web, nutrient cycle, and the output degradation and energy loss. The various components of the environment are biotic and biotic. The individual biotic and abiotic factor affected each other and they are surrounding these components in a more integrated manner and see how the flow of energy takes place within these components of the ecosystem. The interaction of biotic and abiotic components results in a physical structure that is characteristics for each type of ecosystem. Identification and enumeration of plant and animal species of an ecosystem gives species composition. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different labels is called stratification. For example, tree canopy top vertical strata or layer of a forest shrubs, the second and the herbs and grass occupy the bottom layer. The component of the ecosystem are seen to function as a unit when you consider the following aspects: productivity, decomposition, energy flow, nutrient cycle. In terms of an aquatic ecosystem, let us take a small pond as an example. This is a fairly self-sustainable unit and rather simple example that explain even the complex interaction that exists in aquatic ecosystem. A pond is a shallow water body in which all the above mentioned four basic components of ecosystem are well exhibited. The aquatic component is the water with all these dissolved in organic substances and the rich soil deposits at the bottom of the pond. The solar input, the cycle of temperature, day length, and other climatic conditions regulate the rate of function of the entire pond. The trophic component include the phytoplankton, some algae, and the floating, submerged, and marginal plants found at the edges. The consumers are represented by the zooplanktons, the free swimming and bottom dwelling forms. The decomposers are the fungi, bacteria, and plagiaries, especially abundant in the bottom of the pond. This system performs all the function of any ecosystem of the biosphere as a whole. Conversion of inorganic into organic material with the help of radiant energy of the sun by the thought of consumption of the thought of by the thought of decomposition and mineralization of the dead matter to release them back for reuse by the autotrophs. These events are repeated over and over again. This unidirectional movement of energy towards the higher trophic level and its dissipation and loss as heat to energy. Ecosystem services. Healthy ecosystem are the base for a wide range of ecosystem, environmental, aesthetic goods and services. The products of ecosystem processes are named as the ecosystem services. For healthy forest ecosystem, purify air and water, mitigate drops and flush cycle nutrient, generate fertile soils, provide wildlife habitat, maintain biodiversity, pollinate crops, provide storage site for carbon, and also provide aesthetic, cultural, and spiritual value. Through value of such service diversity is difficult to determine. It seems reasonable to think that the biodiversity should carry a hefty price tag. Robert Constanza and his colleagues have very recently tried to put price tags on nature life support services. Researchers have put an average price tag of $3.33 trillion a year on these fundamental ecosystem services, which are largely taken for granted because they are free. This is nearly twice the value of the global gross national product of GNP, which is $18 trillion. Out of the total cost of the various ecosystem services, the soil formation accounts for about 50%, and contribution of other services like recreation and nutrient cycle are less than the 10%. The cost of climate regulation and habitat for wildlife are about 6% each. An ecosystem is a structural and functional unit of nature and it all comprises abiotic and biotic components. Abiotic components are inorganic materials, air, water, and soil, whereas biotic components are producer, consumer, and decomposer. Each ecosystem has characteristic physical structure resulting from the interaction among abiotic and biotic components. Species composition and stratification are the two main structure features of an ecosystem. Based on source of nutrition, every organism occupies a place in an ecosystem. Productivity, decomposition, and energy flow and nutrient cycle are the four important important components of an ecosystem. Primary productivity is the rate of capture of solar energy or biomass production of the producer. It is divided into two types: gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. Rate of capture of solar energy or total production of organic matter is called as GPP, and PP is the remaining biomass or energy left after utilization of producer. Secondary productivity is the rate of assimilation of food energy by the consumer in decomposition. Complex organic compounds or detritus are converted to carbon dioxide, water, and inorganic nutrient by the decomposition. Decomposition involves three processes, namely fermentation or detritus, leaching, and catabolism. Energy flow is unidirectional. First, plants capture solar energy, and then food is transferred from the producers to decomposition. Organisms of different trophic level in nature are connected to each other for food or energy relationship, forming a food chain. The storage and movement of nutrient elements through various components of the ecosystem is called nutrient cycle. Nutrients are repeatedly used through this process. Nutrient cycling is of two types: gaseous and sedimentary. Atmosphere or hydrosphere is the reservoir for the gaseous type of cycle, carbon, whereas Earth's crust is responsible for sedimentary type, phosphorus. Product of ecosystem processes are named as the ecosystem services. Purification of air and water by the forest. Biology community is dynamic and undergoes changes with the passage of time. These changes are sequentially ordered and constitute ecological succession. Succession begins with invasion of a bare, lifeless area by pioneers, which later pave for succession. Ultimately, a stable climatic community is formed. The climax community remains stable as long as the environment remains unchanged.